Hey, welcome back to another Crabby Dice talks and rants about Kickstarter. Sorry for the wait. There's just not been that many games that have come out recently that piqued my interest that I really even wanted to talk about. Today we're going to look at two games. So remember, what I like to focus on is the gameplay and value that you're going to get from the Kickstarter. And you don't all have to agree. Write in the comments below if you are backing it. Tell me why. But let's not waste time. Let's get started. Alright, so the first game we're going to look at today is Sniper Elite, the board game. So, usually I'm going to go through the page and give you my thoughts going through it, but I'll sort of spoil the end right now. I'm of two minds about this game. First of all, the value and presentation is awful on this game. Alright, I'm not going to lie. Compared to things that are already on the market and things that you can get, especially the value is horrible. But the gameplay looks amazing. It's might be one of my favorite hidden movement games when we go through it and I talk about the gameplay and the rules later on in the video. It looks amazing, better than Spectre Ops in my mind, but we'll get to that later. We'll talk about the presentation first and the value, and then we'll get to the good stuff later. So let's go through the page, and what you're going to notice, the page is tiny. It's really small compared to most Kickstarters. You can scroll this thing down 3 times and you're already at the end of the video. So whatever. Okay, so what are you going to get for free? Whatever, it was probably already going to be in the box, but you get a couple of guard dogs that are going to be permanent monitoring areas on the board. I guess if you're playing a better player, you can play with these to make it more a fairer game or something. So whatever, that's fine. Alright, so here you go. This is what they're actually, so I wanted you to focus on this picture first of all. So this is what they're actually selling you, and this is going to cost you $105. Alright, keep that in mind. This is not worth $105. That's a ripoff. But I want you to focus on other things. There's components on this board that's not going to be mentioned in the next section, which is the game components. Alright, so let's just keep going. And this is the part that threw me off. As soon as I saw this picture, I knew I would not back this game. Alright, because this game did not go through any quality check whatsoever. So it says here, base game components, and it's 10 miniatures and 30 cards. That's not all the components in the box. How did this get made through quality? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You're not just getting a board, 10 minis, and 30 cards. There's a bag with tokens for the sniper to pull out. There's other things in the game. There's the dry erase board with the markers and stuff. There's other things you're getting in the game. How is it not represented here? You're underselling your own game. Okay, anyway. Okay, so let's focus in on here. So it's said already the presentation's kind of terrible. Look at these cards. Okay, look at the equipment cards and the specialist cards. These are awful. You know what they look like? If you pull out any game from the 70s or 80s and they had those tearaway cards and it's basically just a white background with some red or black text on it and it looks like ancient, that's what these cards look like. It looks like a card from the 70s or 80s. Alright, just awful. But on the other hand, one of the nicest cards I've seen in games in a long time are the secret objective cards. I swear, if they put enough effort as they did on these cards on the rest of this campaign, it would have been amazing. But these cards are fantastic. They're playing cards with like half of them torn away with what you're trying to sabotage, with the name on the left, and the playing card, which is the actual objective you're trying to take down. Really, really great. I love it. It looks fantastic. I just want those cards. Alright, well, just keep going. So here you get upgrade kit. So this is going to cost like an extra $20-$25 for 2 minis and a bag of tokens. But the problem is they don't mention how many tokens you're going to get. And I don't know, are you paying 20 bucks for 10 tokens, 30 tokens, 50 tokens? I don't know what you're getting. Like, there's nothing. This is the test-to-kill thing. It's just a mini you're going to put on your shelf that people are going to laugh at Hitler getting hit in the balls, so on and so on. Here's another expansion that they're going to talk about later. This again, another $25-ish for 4 minis and a map. Value-wise, kind of poor, I'm not going to lie. So here we go. So let's look at our pledges here. Alright, so the base game, already, we know it's a map, a dry erase board, 10 minis, 30 cards for 55 plus 15 for about 70 bucks. Terrible. I can get Spectre Ops for under 50 and it's about the same amount of components, and that's retail. So if I can get a retail game for the same price as your Kickstarter, or like comparable price, that you know you've mispriced your game. This should easily have been let's say 30 pounds over here, so under a $50 game. 45, maybe 40. There's no way that this should be over 40 bucks, especially in Kickstarter land where it's supposed to be less. You're bypassing distributors, you're bypassing stores. There's a pandemic right now where a bunch of companies are releasing games at retail prices on Kickstarter, and it's driving me insane because they should never be priced that way. All right, or other companies are losing a ton of money. That's basically what you're telling me. All right, so this is the deluxe upgrade kit. So again, we don't know how many tokens we're getting, and you're getting the, oh my god, and you only get the test to kill miniature if you have the deluxe upgrade kit. So you don't even get it in the base game. I didn't even read that before, so that's kind of, I would say, bullshit. Just give them the freaking mini. Who cares? It's one mini. And you're getting a unique sculpt. So those are the 4 sculpts. Is that worth another 25 bucks? No, not worth it at all. And then you get the extra expansion here was just a map and the 4 new snipers. Is it worth it? No, not for 25 bucks. I'm not paying 25 bucks for a map and 4 minis. That's kind of ridiculous. Those are some CMON prices. They always overcharge for their expansions and so on. Okay, so we're just gonna go through it fast. I'm wasting already too much time here. There's some I guess unlocks they really want to get to, but they're not going to. And then we're almost at the end of the thing. So big no-no. There's nowhere on this freaking page that tells you how to play the game. Like, come on guys, Rebellion, please get back to me. Why? There's, besides a little blurb at the beginning that says this is a hidden movement game, it doesn't tell you how to play the game. All right. Like, have a blurb, like those funny pictures that show you how to freaking play. Like, there's nothing. Like, I'm going through this, and the only way to know how to play is to actually watch a playthrough or this long playthrough of the actual people from Rebellion playing. That's a huge no-no. Don't do that. All right. Okay. So now let's get to the good stuff. All right. Let's go to the gameplay and what I think will sell this game, because the gameplay looks really good. So for that, I'm actually gonna have to zoom into this map because nowhere else on this freaking page is there a decent picture of the map. All right. So these are the Rebellion guys playing the game, and I watched the whole video, and it was super entertaining. I really liked the game. So what you're trying to do, if you didn't know, it's a hidden movement game. So you're gonna have the sniper who's not on the board, and the guy's gonna be drawing on his dry erase marker, going around the map, trying to get 2 objectives. So you're gonna have to get to 2 objectives you draw at the beginning of the game. So you can have, let's say, 7 and 3 or whatever. So you have to come into the map, try to get to those objectives, blow them up before the countdown timer runs out on the right over here. If that happens before you blow up an objective, then you lose. If you're caught and you're hit 2 times, then you lose, and so on and so on. Each of the guys are gonna have, each squad's gonna have 3 guys. You can move 2 out of 3 and do actions with them, or do an intel action to check if he's in your zone. All right, so that's all good, fantastic. What I really love is the dry erase board, which I already mentioned. It's a fantastic idea. This map, I love this map because it really emphasizes the size of like areas. So like if you're going down the highway down the middle, you can run super fast down the middle of the map, because you can cover more ground. But then obviously you might give away your position because it's right down the middle of the map. Meanwhile, if you're going slowly through the sides, well, it's slower because there's a lot of obstacles, and you see there's a lot more squares, so it's going to take you a long time to go around. So I really love that. So you have to like sort of gauge, do I go through the long areas, do I take little squares to go around? It's great. Games like Spectre Ops, everything's the same size. Escape from Aliens in Outer Space, everything's the same size. So you don't really get the scope of scale, right? So I really love this map. The game mechanisms are super simple. The guy explained it in under 5 minutes. The sniper's gonna do one of 3 things. The guards can do one of 3 things. So it runs really fast, and it really boils down to the deduction part, which is what you're trying to do. What else? Oh, let's talk about the push your luck aspect. I really love that for the sniper. So when he's trying to kill somebody, what you have to do is you got to pick a number between 1 and whatever to take tokens out of a bag, and you need to get black cubes equal to the distance between you and the target. But what's amazing about that system is you can sort of use it to fool your opponents, because you can be on the same spot as the guy you're trying to kill, and instead of saying, okay, I'm only going to draw 2, you're sort of giving away your position, because then they're going to be like, okay, he's either on the spot or next to it. But you can say like 6, and then you draw 6 cubes, and if you don't give away your position, because there's ways to do that, well, then they're going to think, oh my god, he must be like 4 or 5 spaces away. Meanwhile, you're like on his spot. So it's fantastic. I really love that. It's just another way to fool the opponent and try to be sneaky. It's not all good though. There are some things that I find a bit odd. The guards moving through the areas don't spot you. I mean, that's kind of, let's come down to it, bullshit. I hate that rule. I mean, every other deduction game, it's sort of built in that if you go through the area where the sniper is, you kind of see him. It's kind of bullshit that, oh, he's standing against the wall, you don't see him unless he's moving past you. So basically, when he passes through you, he gives away noise, but when you pass through him, it doesn't do anything. A bit bizarre. So I might house rule that when I play this, and I'll figure out a way to make it work. Another thing that was really weird was the whole shooting thing. I love the map and the line of sight rules. They're so thematic and really simple to use. It's basically, if you're outside and you're not shooting through a building, you can basically hit him. So the buildings block line of sight, but also thematic. If you're on the side of a building or inside a building on the edges, so let's say around here, you can shoot in and out of a building. So you can shoot at a guard that's at the edge of a building. It's really cool. Like, you can't shoot through a building, makes sense, but you can shoot at a guard that's at a window right next to the building. Really easy to mechanics for shooting. Yeah, so there you go. Those are the gameplay. I really have nothing that bad to say about the gameplay. It looks really good. Honestly, I'd rather play this than Spectre Ops after watching both videos. Spectre Ops, it seems a bit okay, but I played it a couple of times, but I think this one would be better. Just one last thing that I had to mention here. I find though that they were playing, each video that I saw was playing 3 players, and I think that's the worst player count you can play this game. I think this is the perfect 1v1 game. Like, if you're playing this with your partner, I think it would be fantastic. You can get in their head, and one player's controlling all the Nazis, so you don't have to discuss what's happening, and it's gonna take so much longer to play this game if you're not playing 1v1. Because the problem is, if you're playing 3 players, one guy's the sniper and 2 other players are controlling 3 squads, so you constantly have like discussions on one player's got one squad, one player's got the other, and then they're always discussing who's going to control the second squad, and they're having arguments, and the game just drags on forever. So this game, I think, is perfect 1v1, or maybe 4 players, because then one player controls each squad in a 4-player game. So maybe that'll work, but in a 3-player game, I found it a bit wonky. So maybe there's a variant that they can release or something for that. Well, anyway, there's Sniper Elite. Gameplay, great. I give it a thumbs up. But honestly, value and presentation sort of get a negative score. So I'm on the fence. Do I spend the extra cash that I know I'm going to lose? But you know what? I might just wait, because I could probably get this on the secondary market later on to try for much cheaper. Anyway, there's my take on Sniper Elite. Sorry, that was kind of long. I'll try to make the other one a bit shorter. Alright, next we're going to talk about Core Clash, which is a 1v1 robot fighting game. Let's say one mode, 1v1. I'm going to say 1v1 because if you're playing this as 3 players, you're playing it wrong, because in all of those 1v1 games, you cannot play more than 2 players. Alright, so we're just going to go through the Kickstarter like usual. I'll give you my subjective take on the components, value, and the gameplay. So, this is essentially the game, what you're going to get. It's a big box with 12 minis, 8 terrain pieces, gigantic cards, so on and so on, a bunch of dice, a bunch of cards that are pretty much black. So we're just going to keep going down. We're going to go blah 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 blah, go through some unlocks here. So just some items of note. They give you more of these terrain tiles. Actually, they were upgraded terrain tiles from 2 mils to 3 mils. Alright, fine. And then my favorite upgrade of all time is fluorescent tips on dice. That's amazing. I want those dice just to see what fluorescent tips do to my dice. They did unlock one robot here, and this is kind of misleading. It's a co-op mode, not the Megatron here. So we'll keep going, and we're gonna get to the value section first because that's what they have. So here we're gonna talk about value. So 115 US dollars for this. So 115 plus, I checked the shipping, was about 25 bucks. So let's say $140 for this game. Now, is it worth 140 bucks? Not even close. All right. Just to put it in perspective, I'm gonna unfortunately compare this one a lot to GTR, whatever that game was called, the heavy hitters, which was at 99 bucks and it had pre-painted minis, I believe. And you can pay for unpainted minis. If my memory serves me right, that was a couple of years ago. So that one had about the same amount of minis. Let's say it had between, I think every squad had 3 or 4, and there were 4 squads. So let's say between 12 and 16 minis. And it was 99 bucks and it had a ton of cards, well detailed, bunch of other components. It even had these dashboards, plastic dashboards, all inlaid, and keeps all your stuff clean and stuff. And that was 99 bucks. And somehow this one's trying to come out at 115 bucks. And I think the major problem with this campaign and why it needs to balloon to this price, or why they thought it might balloon to this price. Actually, before we even keep going further, this is the first time publisher on Kickstarter, so already there I'm a bit worried, and I never tend to tack back. First time publishers on Kickstarter. I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to get burned by companies that don't know what they're doing. But anyway, so I think the major problem with this one is they're forcing you to get these stupid terrain pieces. So you're gonna get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2. You're gonna get 12 of these chunky terrain pieces that are big pieces of plastic that you don't really need. Every other Kickstarter ever made gives you the option to get these terrain pieces or not, because most people don't give a shit, don't want it, right? This one's forcing you to get it, and I think it's ballooning up the price. You could have made this easily a sub $70 game without that stuff. Make it an add-on, whatever, pay for it, whatever, charge a premium, who gives a shit, and maybe you'll attract more people. But at 115, you're just scaring away everyone, because at that price, imagine comparing this to what Hell gave you, which was 120, I believe, which you got, like, I'm not even kidding, I think 4 times the content of what's in this box in Hell, the Hell game from that came out earlier this year. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the value. Not really there at all. Also, there's no scale represented anywhere. We don't know how big these things are. If you look at the playthrough, you sort of understand the scale. Some of these are really tiny. Like these ones up here, I think they're like 30 to 35 mils. They're really tiny. They're like this small. And then you got some of these guys here, which are a bit bigger. So maybe around 40 mils. So they're a bit bigger, but they're not gigantic like GKR minis. I think they were like 115 to 120 mils high. Like they were pretty decent chunks of plastic. This one, I mean, as cool as the minis are, again, these are 3D renders. What are you actually going to get from a first-time publisher? Who knows? All right. What else you get in the box? Not much. You get 11 dice. You get about 60 tiny cubes, and you get 12 cards. Oh, well, big cards, and you get a ton of extra cards. But these cards, let me take a pause now. Amazing. I really love the art. I have a feeling that they actually made the art for this game and then decided to get a game around it and said, okay, what else can we do with this art? Because this art is phenomenal. I love to put the picture of one of these guys just on my wall. So detailed. I love the futuristic look. It's great. Yeah, so let's keep going. Then you get a bunch of cards, but they're kind of boring and lackluster, to be fair. Look at these cards. There's no imagination on the graphic design of these things. They're pretty terrible. And then you got your cumulative energy cards, which are even worse. These are just horrible. They need to go back at their drawing board for these cards. Then you got the map pieces, which I'm not gonna spend too much time on these, but they're kind of boring. You got 16 of them, okay, but they're all the same, besides a couple of them with water marks on them. The rest look exactly the same, so probably to save money. I'm just going to mention it now. Kickstarter companies, if you're going to give us tiles, print a different map on the other side of the tiles. Please. You have the freaking tiles already made. Just print something else on the other side. Give us 2 maps. I'm sick of tired of seeing these stupid games with one-sided map tiles. It doesn't make any sense. Print something on the other side. And then you get 100 of these tokens, but there's only like 6 different types. So you're getting like 30 tokens of each. So, alright. Rulebooks. So here we go. Here's the total. And again, you can compare this to other stuff on the market, and you're not... This is not going to blow you away at all. Not at all. So again, here you can see like the scaling of the robots. They're kind of small. This guy's kind of big, but the rest is not that impressive. This is an add-on. We're gonna go through the add-on. I'm not gonna talk about the add-ons at all. They're just gigantic pieces of plastic for, but you're paying for it, right? 75 bucks for this one, 45, 35. Just to give you an idea of scale, like this triple cyclone pack over here, 40 bucks for 3 models. This is more expensive than a CMON game that offers 3 models in a pack. That, when I'm saying that means you're ripping people off. All right, and these are not even that big. They range from 35 to 45 mil. I mean, come on. Like seriously, 40 bucks. All right, we got some dice, blah 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 blah, and then we're gonna get to that super expensive dice tower. It's pretty cool. It lights up. So it's a dice tower. If you didn't see the video, where you throw in dice, and as the dice fall, I guess there's a sensor in there, and when they fall through certain areas, it lights up. So you see here, you have the LEDs. So it lights up the whole dice tower when they're going through. But the problem is, it's super expensive. $13 a level. Just to give you an idea, this one on the left is 26 bucks. And this one on the right is like $70. Who's gonna pay $70 for that? Like even $26 for just because it lights up with 2 LEDs. Alright, so I'm done talking about value. It's pretty poor. I think honestly Boar Studio should have canceled and came back with a more competitive price, and maybe remove the terrain stuff and come back sub 70 bucks, and they'd make a lot more money than they are now. But anyway, they decided not to, but they're going forward, so that's it. Alright, so now let's go to gameplay. So gameplay is interesting, alright? Its core mechanic is claustrophobia. Alright, so if you've never played claustrophobia, you're going to have action dice, you're going to roll them, which is what you're seeing here. You're going to assign those dice to your robots. So you have sort of 2 options. You either assign it on top of your robot or above the robot, and if you put it above, you're going to move him, and if you're putting it on him, you're going to activate that ability, which is usually an attack, right? Then you target a guy, and then you roll your attack dice. Now, what I hate about the attack dice in this game is so dumb. You need to roll that number, which is the number of the action die. So to give you an idea here, because my action die that I put on my robot was a 4, when I roll my 4 attack dice, I need to roll a 4 in one of those dice. That's so random. Like, it's so random, and it causes massive limitations on the design possibilities of this game, because you can't have a system where you get +1s or -1s to your attack roll, whatever. All you can do is add a die or remove a die. The scope of development for future expansions is not there. You just can't add certain things, right? It could have been like just hit on a 6. If you're just gonna make a 1 number, just always say hit on a 6. You roll your dice and you hit on a 6. At least then you would have other cards or options to say, okay, now you get +1 per roll, so now when you roll you can hit on 5s and 6s. Like something, this is way too simple, and I don't know why they did it this way. It's kind of bizarre. Again, they could have just made it hit always on 6s. It's the exact same thing, right? So it's still 1 out of 6 on every single die. Another stupid thing is that every single weapon almost does 1 damage. So I'll get to that point in a couple of seconds. Actually, before we do that, I just wanted to show you the scaling of the stuff. Alright, about the value. So here we go. So this guy's opening the box. It's pretty thick, but as you can see, there's like 80% air in this box. Okay, I know they have to add the other components like map tiles and all that stuff, but Oof, adding about 100 cards, 12 robot cards, and how many tiles were there? About 16 tiles and about 100 cubes. It's not going to fill up that box that much, so you're going to be stuck with this stuff. So as you can see, like the terrain pieces are kind of massive. As you can see, the ones around here, look at the buildings over here. You have your mountains in the middle, and look at all this air in the middle. And even if you look at the robot in, I know I'm just pretty much the only video where you can actually see the scale of robots. So here you go, here's the scale. So you're gonna get 12 robots and they all fill out here, and you could have easily, there's so much air in here or space, you can just condense this all into a smaller package. You probably get more plastic in claustrophobia than you would here, just to give you an idea. Alright, anyway, so let's go back to gameplay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the 1 damage thing. So let's go all the way to the top and I'll sort of explain to you what I'm trying to say. Is that everything almost does 1 damage. So it ends up being like a chess game and not really a robot fighting game where you're chucking dice and getting reversals of fortune. I feel like by having your weapons limited to 1, max 2, it becomes a chess game because you're constantly just moving your guys around trying to get that 2nd damage, because the only way to do that constantly is to push guys into buildings and mountains, to pull guys into buildings and mountains, to push a guy into the edges of the walls. So it becomes like a chess game where positioning becomes more important than anything else, right? So you have to position a guy there, use your push ability, push him against the wall. Okay, now I'm going to do 2 damage if you hit, right? Whereas I can't just get in front of the guy, chuck 50 dice and see what I get, right? It's, if I do that, I'm just going to do 1 damage. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so it becomes, again, chess-like. Positioning is important. I mean, if you like that, fine. And also another problem with dealing 1 damage a lot of the time is that once you get 5 or 6 damage ahead of the other player, or even 1 robot ahead of the other player, it's going to be hard for the other player to catch up. I feel like this is going to have a huge runaway leader problem because it's hard to catch up on the damage. Yes, there's a rule that if you look underneath the cards here, this section here, these are their power abilities or powerful abilities, and they come unlocked when one of your other robots die. But how much of a swing could they possibly provide on the overall game? Fine, you get your overpowered, you kill one of their guys that's low in health, and guess what? Now they're gonna have an overpowered guy, but they're still 5 or 6 damage ahead in the whole scope of things. So yeah, I do like the dice placement. I already said that. That's one of my favorite things of claustrophobia, and that's a super awesome European game mechanic thing that they're introducing into a robot game, which is cool. But unfortunately, I don't. Overall value is bad. Gameplay I'm not sold on. So overall, I would not back this. Let me know what you guys think of the 2 games I talked about today. Sorry to be so negative. I'll try to find a more interesting game on my next video so I can be more positive. That's it for today. I'll see you guys in the next one.